Adaptive teaching simply means adapt your support, not your expectations. Now, across the profession, adaptive teaching is a buzzword. So let me just clarify. It's been in the English teacher standards since 2010 stroke 11. And inside, I'm going to go through the key definitions, bust some myths, show you what it is, show you what it's not, give you lots of examples, and most importantly, school leaders watching, give you some implementation plans for teachers to use, but also whole school CPD ideas. So that's the plan. This video is just going to be a short 8 or 9 minute walkthrough. Inside the slide deck, you've got 84 slides and lots of templates and this little video explainer. So you're going to get those three things, the kind of the myths, the practical templates, the evidence, and these implementation plans. So let me just come off the slide here. You've got definitions. There's the teacher standards. Quite simply, adaptive teaching isn't a rebrand of differentiation. It's teacher standard 5, responding to the strengths and needs of your students. SEND, higher prior attainment, English as additional language students, and those approaches that help your students to be taught more effectively by you. You are the greatest asset. So in the slides, there's your teacher standards. I've broken them down individually, told you a few ideas about what it's not. And then in section 2, I'm going to give you lots of resources, but I'm just going to pause on this. Look at all the things we're already doing as teachers. What we need to do is avoid the things here on the left. And although we do those things, these are I guess, the processes and I guess the activities we do in our school that drive a bit of workload. Then these things on the far right here, or I should say here on the camera pointing that way, is the things that we might do for performance, particularly when external forces, inspections, parents, or dare I say, as school leaders, we chase things that are maybe a poor proxy for performance. So what we need to do is stay neatly in the middle. And I think about the curriculum debate over the last several years across the English profession. I think we are a much stronger place here in terms of these activities. So I'm going to say, as my first provocation, if you're going off to test adaptive teaching in an observation, I think this is a very weak evaluation methodology. Look at all these other sources that you can do. Of course, you can go into an observation, but it's only one of a multitude of sources that you can go fishing for. So do that with caution. Yes, of course, do it, but just be aware of those things too. Now, here are 10 adaptive teaching techniques. It's not lots of different worksheets. The challenge is the same. You're adapting your support, but here are just 10 things that you'll do over a period of time. And what I've done in the slide deck is just give you a range of examples, definitions, and some resources. So here are 18 reasons why all teachers should use seating plans. Okay, 18 reasons. Then an over time approach of how you might want to also think about seating plans with activities. Then I've also got in here, let me just pop to that. We talk about feedback as another strategy. Now in my work guide to feedback, I quote 9 different techniques. Click on this image in the slide deck and you're going to see a resource that takes you to 175 feedback techniques. Astonishing. This is my go-to script. It's in my DNA. It works wonders for behavior, feedback, lesson observations, difficult conversations. So in your adaptive teaching responses, here's how you can structure feedback for those SEN students, the high attaining students, those difficult conversations and all sorts. Now, another approach in these 10 I give you here are classroom displays, something that we maybe take for granted. Yes, overwhelming displays. Yes, minimal displays. But let me just throw this question to you. How would you display keywords, curriculum ideas, exemplar student work in this type of classroom? Now, this classroom is kind of my home turf. What would you do in this science lab where 2 classes come together in one as a kind of group space for practical activities? This is a school in Barnet, North London. And what would you do if you were teaching in a forest school? Where on earth would you put your displays? How would you display content to factor in weather? This school here is in Cyprus. Here's another. This is a UTC, University Technical College. Students learning in these kind of open air spaces. How would you present display work to these level 1, level 2, level 3 students? In a primary classroom, lots of different zones, whether it's we think overwhelming or all the resources to hand, promoting play, things like that. How would you display in here? So lots of things to consider. Now, I've also given you some example student work about color coding, completing tasks, helping students take action, helping simplify the support in some cases, and in other cases, increasing the difficulty. So there's lots of ideas there. Now, another technique I promote is our questioning methods. Now, another book that I published was based on that premise that as teachers, we think we're really good at asking lots of questions because we ask questions every day. But that difficult question from me, how many different techniques do you know? Now, unless you go and rehearse and study and look at lots of different techniques, most teachers will know 3 or 4 to hand. But how do you build 10, 15, 20 different techniques in your DNA that you can use at any one point and respond in the moment as you evaluate student responses? So some of my techniques are just sharing here are Fermi questions. Fermi questions originate from Enrico Fermi, who's a statistician. He posed vague questions to elicit creative responses. So in the resource pack, I've given you about 40, 50 different question ideas you can see here. Funnel questions, how you shape processing, shape cognition by being quite vague to begin with and then increasing in specificity. How would you do that in this technique? How would you present it on paper for students to complete? How would you present it in the class? And then the second most downloaded resource on the website, over 1 million downloads and counting, is the question matrix. I published this 15 years ago on the website. Lots and lots of teachers still haven't seen it as I share it more and more on my travels. You can use this as your own methodology here. Build these questions into your own DNA. So the logic here is you connect the question on the left and connect it to one on the top. So for example, you might have what is, what has, what can, what should, what will, what might, or how is, how has, etc. Or I can put these questions on laminated A3 cards or A4 cards around my whiteboard and have the matrix always to hand, and I could display an image. Students can stick post-it notes on. You can give this as an A4 plastic wallet, slip student work inside. Students can use it as a self and peer assessment. There are at least 10 different ways you can use this resource, and it's probably one of the most powerful and impactful in classrooms. Whole class feedback sheets, self-regulation. So I'll explain this more in a follow-up video for website users. But I guess the crux I want to finish with here in this short video, and I've already gone over time, is some planning for adaptive teaching using personal implementation plans. So here is an example for an individual teacher. There's a template and another format in there also for you. But here's the core idea, and I'm going to just put this full size. What if you're a school or a college leader out there and adaptive teaching is your whole school focus? How would you develop CPD across the year? How would you quality assure what you're doing? So just take this one here as an example, rip it up, come up with your own version. But across the top row, that would be my strategy in synchronization with your CPD calendar, teacher workload, assessment points, all those pinch points in the academic year, but having whether it's every fortnight, every month, a CPD focus if adaptive teaching is your whole school priority. And then key things that you might discuss in those training sessions, show and tells, those kind of things, and how you might go off and quality assure these in year teams, in departments, whole school focus, those kind of things. So I hope this gives you some food for thought about how to roll it out as a long-term implementation, as a test, and how if you're looking to test fidelity and see how these things change habits and ideas, then you might roll this into a 2-year program and plan. As ever, in the full slide deck, you've got some reflection questions for yourself or to share at Whole School CPD, references from me, and to finish off, when I lead all these templates into Whole School CPD sessions. So let's just take a look here. 88 slides. It's going to take me a good couple of 2 or 3 hours to present this to a school for the first time. Internally, you tweak this, change this to suit your own habits. But when I go into a school, here's my 5-minute professional development plan. So I make sure all stones are unturned. Plan A, Plan B is factored in, and that I make sure that the intentions are delivered neatly, impactfully, and can be sustained after I've gone. So this is what I do here to make all those things successful. I hope you found this short walkthrough useful. You've got 80 odd slides, plenty of templates to play around with to get to grips with something that's really critical in our day-to-day teaching: how to adapt your teaching to meet the needs of all your students. Keep the challenge the same, but adapt your support to meet the needs of your learners. Bye for now.